Welcome to our newest segment, Mondays with Mel, on In the Vine podcast. These episodes, Alyssa will be taking the opportunity to get creative, sharing biblical insight and teaching, hosting new guests, and more. Stay tuned, and if you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to show your support and like, share, and subscribe.
Hi everybody, and welcome to another episode of Mondays with Mel. It is your host, Mel. And with me in the studio today, I have the Ramos sisters. I have Alyssa, which you met yesterday.
Hey everyone.
Not yesterday, the last episode. And I have Vicky.
Hi.
Vicky is Alyza's little sister, and she is phenomenal. How are you doing, Vicky?
I'm doing really well.
Yeah?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am 17. I am a senior in high school.
Nice.
And I love to play soccer.
She does look to play soccer. And she just went on a trip to Barcelona, Spain.
Madrid.
Yes. There you go.
Europe.
Somewhere over in that side.
All together.
And that was amazing. You got to play in like the legitimate stadium, right? I don't know anything about this, so I'm just
Yeah, so we went out there for 1 full week. We got coached by European coaches. We played against Spanish teams and the whole shebang. Yeah.
Nice. What was your favorite part?
Definitely like the locker room moments with my team. Like just like those sweet moments before you go out and play the game, you know, the pep talk and all that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Your mom said stories of like little girls fangirling over you guys.
Yes, because we spoke English, so they were like trying to like practice their English right before we got on the field. Yeah. So they were like all excited.
That's so sweet.
Yeah.
Okay, so with that being said, just like the last episode, this one is also no notes, unrehearsed, and you guys know how In the Vine does it when it comes to things like this. We just fly off the cuff and we hope something lands. And so we're going to do that today. I asked Vicky, since it's her first time on the podcast, what she wanted to talk about. And she said she wanted to talk about prophetic words, which I'm going to be honest with you, caught me super off guard. So,
It's deep.
Yeah, it's super deep. So, I was actually going to ask Alyssa, like, oh, like, how have you been leaning on the Lord as your husband? But Vicky came in with a bam. Yeah. But I love it. Vicky has always been that girl, to be quite honest, like, very quiet, but when she opens her mouth, it's always very intentional, very deep, and ever since I've known her, she's always just had intentionality, and so we're gonna follow it. So Vicky, what about prophetic words? What did you want to bring up today?
Just the whole actions behind it, you know, just the whole powerfulness that God can really work in from 1 month to another. It's just crazy to see how your life can truly transform, you know, especially like being so young, you know, being still a young Christian. It's just like crazy to see how God can really like use you in like that time and that season of your life.
Yeah. Which is crazy for you. I mean, because we got to experience like a little bit of the world, right? Some of us a little bit more than the others. And so, and so we kind of had both. But for you, like your parents, like you grew up practically in a saved household. Yeah. And so everything that we feel like we should have done, you're doing. Yeah. And I know it's hard, right? Because essentially you're the first one that's doing a lot of these things, even though we know that it's the right thing. You're the one that has to put them into application. Yeah. And so the prophetic words, I'm sure, were saving grace for you in a lot of ways. And so before we go deeper into that, what is your take on prophetic words?
I would say, kind of going back off my sister, I've been saved for a couple 10 plus years. It's really important to, there's still words that I haven't seen manifest in my life, but if I look back at my life 10 years ago, I'm not the same person. And it takes, some of them are, you know, maybe later on in life, so don't get discouraged. Keep pressing towards them, and celebrate the little victories of the growth, the wisdom, the maturity, and take those practical steps. Write them down, read them, revisit them if you need to, and just see what practical things you can do in your life today to reach that.
Yes, I agree with that. So prophetic words, right? To define it in the best of our ability. I know there's going to be people from our church that hear this and be like, really? Like, that's how you're going to define it? But essentially it is a foretelling. And no, we're not talking about psychics, right? Because the thing about psychics is that they read your soul. Like, it's really easy for me to pick up what's going on in your life if I were to tap into what's going on in your soul. Yeah. But prophetic people and prophets, those that function in that gift mainly, they read the Spirit of God. And so through the Spirit of God, they're able to bring out your future into the present in order for you to know the direction that you're going. Yeah. I like that definition way better. We tried. Okay, just so you guys know, we recorded this before, but we realized we were not recording. So there's that. Yeah. Somebody should have given us a prophetic word about that. But essentially that's what it is, right? Is a prophet or somebody that's giving you that word, tapping into God's heart and releasing it for you. Yeah. And sometimes you get your own prophetic words where the Lord is telling you what he wants to do in your future, and you pray that in. And most of the time, I think it comes through other people. So with that, do you ladies want to share like a testimony of what of a prophetic word that you've already seen come to pass or that you're currently seeing unravel? Vicky.
Yeah, so a couple months back, I was prophesied academic scholarships, and I am a senior in high school, so I'm starting to apply to colleges. And without me even applying, I got contacted by a college coach, and I got offered a scholarship and a spot on a soccer team.
That's crazy.
Yes, which is crazy because I was like, academic scholarships, you know, that's tough. You know, getting a full ride or anything like that. I was like, how is this truly going to happen? Like, if I'm going to make a Division 1, Division 2 team, and it just came out of the blue. Like, I prayed about it, and God did the rest, and it just showed up, like, at my doorstep.
Yeah. That's amazing. You prayed about it, and then God did the rest. And so I wanna kind of just like dissect that a little bit, right? Because God did do that, but Vicky has been busting her butt with school. Well, I don't know about school. I hope so with school. Yeah. Okay. With school, and what I've seen is soccer, right? Because that one's a little bit more public, but she's been busting her butt for like ever. So it wasn't just because, and I don't want to make it seem like it's by works, right? But because she was diligent and she did the work that God was like, gave her this word, right? Yeah. And so then because of her faithfulness and perfecting and like doing good and, you know what I mean, developing this gift, that the Lord was able to provide for her in this way. Yeah. And so, you know, I don't want people to be like, oh, like God is this magic fairy. No, like Vicky's been busting her butt for years. And then because of that, God rewarded and is rewarding her faithfulness, you know?
Exactly.
And so I think that's super important. Do you want to add anything else to that? Or?
Kind of to piggyback off of you, like, even in youth group, we were learning, it depends, like, I forgot what exact scripture, but, like, you can plant seeds on bad soil and you'll reap bad. Obviously, if you plant seeds on, like, thorny grounds, then the thorns are going to eat up the seeds. So it's like you have to constantly water your soil and all that. It's like, it didn't obviously happen overnight. Yeah. You know, it's been a hard journey, but it also depends on the soil that you lay your seeds in, that you'll reap what you sow, basically.
Yeah. Especially, again, so young, you know, during this time, the world teaches you, oh, have fun. Like, your teenage years. And I know that you've had your fun, but the thing about that is, like, you've had substantial fun. Like, it hasn't just been, like, it hasn't been only, like, going to the movies or to the mall. Like, it's not just that. Like, you've traveled. You know what I mean? Like, you've traveled the world. Like, you've been able to see and experience things that other kids your age wouldn't. But at the same time, I know for a fact, but you can correct me if I'm wrong, that it's come at a cost, right? Because consecration and discipline alienates from other people, right? And I'm sure, especially growing up in that, it's like, well, why can't I do that? Like, why can't I get away with that? Yeah. But then in staying faithful, and I'm sure listening to your parents and listening to your youth teachers, and of course, first and foremost, the Lord, is what's gotten you to this place, and it's going to take you further, right? Yeah. I'm sure that was difficult. It's hard as adults. How much more when it's like your formative years? Like, that's crazy.
Definitely.
And that deserves to be honored.
Yes.
Liza.
And even just adding to what she was saying, she also put herself out like through this soccer app. So she put herself out there and was like, okay, like she did her part. She put her profile, her videos, so that recruiters can see her as well. And I know the consecration part isn't easy. She'll come home, at least when I was back home, and she would tell me just like, wow, like these girls, like the way they talk and all their drama, and I'm like, how old are you guys? Like, oh my gosh. I was like, oh yeah, I did that too at that age. But it's like it really does, like she's truly like set herself apart. So I just want to highlight her for that.
Thank you.
But yeah, so going back to prophetic words, one thing that just came to my head, early on in my faith, I remember a prophet, someone who operates in that prophetic gift. He was telling me that I needed to stick to our pastor, Pastor Linda. And at that point, I wasn't getting mentored. I was in the church, and at that point, I didn't know like that I needed that or that was a thing. Like, okay, like he said it. And so I remember meeting up with her and telling her like, you know, just basically starting that whole mentorship. And thank God I did that, because it's till this day I still like call her once a week and we go over just how I'm doing, like my walk with Christ, questions and accountability. And from that point on, like I've really grown so much. So I didn't fully understand that prophetic word, but I know he said it. It was in a safe place. So I was like, okay, if that's what God's saying, then let me do it. And thank God I did. Like it's matured me in my faith, like amazing. Yeah.
And there's so many different kind of prophetic words that you can get, right? Like it could be towards your careers, towards relationships like that, or I don't know, just there's just so many money, and so with that being said, sometimes I think also the prophetic words, God has to give them to you in order for you to like dream bigger, right? Because you know, you can grow up in an environment, or yours, and like I remember when I first came into the church, the first prophetic word that A-Rob ever gave me, I was like, what the heck? Like I was just like, what are you saying to me? Like, this is weird, you know? But not weird in a negative way. I was just like, wait, God can really do that with me? Like, that's so crazy. And so then ever since then, like God has really broken a lot of barriers, not just in my life, but even in my family's life. And so to me, it's just like these prophetic words, like that's why the Bible says don't despise prophetic words, because it really is the heart of God. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't Corinthians say like desire all these gifts, and like all these gifts are good, but it says that you should desire to prophesy?
Yes,
I think it's in Corinthians.
I believe so. Yeah,
90% sure it's that, but it's because it reveals God's heart. And a prophet, a true prophet, when you know that they're operating in that gift and they're accurate, it's not because they're gifted, it's because they have intimacy with the Lord. And so you can trust people that are intimate with God. So with that, I know that when we also get prophetic words, there tends to be a warfare that comes, right? Where it's just like, it can either come from us, we're like, is that really true? Like, blah, 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 blah. Or it can really come from the enemy, because the thing about that is, like, now the enemy has also heard the plans for your life. And so how did you ladies, how have you ladies counteracted that or gone through that? And this time I'll start with you.
Yeah. I think one of the first counteracts that I have to do is within my mind. I know that you've said, like you mentioned, a lot of the times prophetic words will encourage you to dream bigger. And I've gotten words where I'm like, okay, I don't have the skill set for that. You're going to be speaking in front of people. I hate speaking in front of people. Like, it makes me nervous. Like, I don't have that gift. But so I have to, like, first and foremost, fight the doubts and the fear in my own head of how is that going to work? How is that going to happen? I felt like prophetic words that I was going to go to Texas, and I didn't know how the details were going to work out, but I ended up driving to Texas, and I stayed in a hotel for a week, not knowing what. I was like, God, you said Texas, I'm going to stay in Texas. So, like, just things like that. Like, I ended up, like, even coming to a point where I was like, okay, a week went by, I didn't hear anything. I'm just going to drive back because, one, like, I can't just spend all this money on hotels. Like, I was trying to be practical and that's what made sense in my carnal mind.
Right.
But God said Texas. So I remember even packing up my car, and I was starting to drive towards California, and I had no peace. And that intimacy, praying, worshiping, and having that openness of like, God, like, if this is not from you, like, I'm gonna start driving, but if this is not from you, like, stop me. And I could not explain. I had like no peace, to the point where I was like, I just started crying. I could not keep on my drive, and I was like, okay, then I'm gonna pull over and then find another hotel. So it's like, okay, I had to fight the doubts, the trying to make sense of it all in my head. Again, what the prophetic word said, God said Texas, but I just was trying to make it all happen in my own head. It didn't make sense, and eventually it broke, and God honored that faithfulness, and I stayed, and it was just such a blessing how it all worked out. But yeah, it just comes with like fighting the thoughts in your own head.
The
sometimes.
contradiction, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like a miracle. What makes a miracle is that it contradicts physics. It contradicts what's supposed to be happening. Like, we want to make sense of miracles, and we want to make sense of like, okay, like if I do 1 + 1, it's going to equal 2, but miracles don't add up.
Yeah.
They never add up.
Yeah.
And so it's that way often with prophetic words, where it's just like, it doesn't add up that you didn't apply for a scholarship and yet it came to you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
How have you counteracted the attack?
Kind
Or
of
the
to go
warfare.
off what Liza said, it's like I got a prophetic word that I would receive a new boldness. And it's like, people that know me, I'm very to myself, you know, I'm quiet, you know, shy, but I have to put myself in situations that I can grow in that. And that's something I had to learn. It's like, okay, the only way you're going to receive a new boldness is if you put yourself out there. I'm not going to all of a sudden wake up with this confidence. It's like, okay, I'm a whole new person. And talk to like anybody or anybody new. So it's like, even doing this today, it's like, okay, I'm quiet, I'm to myself, but I'm going to put myself out there, and I'm going to be bold, and, you know, I'm going to see what happens from there. So it's just like, you have to put actions to what you get, you know? It's
That's
like,
so good.
if you just stay in your little circle, in your little bubble, it's like,
Yeah.
those prophetic words are going to struggle to become true. Like, you have to put one step forward, and it's like, okay, boldness, then let me put myself in something that I can become more bold.
Yes.
Right.
So it's just like, you know, fighting those thoughts within yourself. Like, you're honestly you're your biggest battle. So it's like, you have to like fight those selfish thoughts, or be like, how I don't deserve this, but you know what, I'm gonna fight that, because you know what, I do deserve that.
Yeah. I absolutely love that, and I think that's so wise. And I think even coming down and being like, not being so rigid in thinking it's gonna happen in one way, right? Like, did you ever think that getting more boldness was gonna be a podcast episode?
No.
Like, right? And so God just does things like, and he'll open up the opportunity if you like, so allow yourself, right? The willing heart. And I think with that also, prophetic words can save your life. Like, I know that, for example, how can I say this? Like, let's say if you're struggling, right, and you're dealing with the sickness, but you've gotten words that you were going to live long, or that you're going to do this and this and that. So it's like, if the Lord has spoken to your future, but even though your present looks like it's about to end, or whatever the case may be, it's like, well, wait a minute, like, this isn't God's plan for my life. God's plan for my life is life, success, healing, and all that good stuff, right? So oftentimes, even though the contradiction comes or something happens, you got to use a prophetic word in order to push through. I know that's one of the things that we talked about was the practical application. And so that is, as you mentioned, is like listening to the prophetic word, right? It's like listening and just allowing it to penetrate your heart, and to be like, okay, if this is what God says, and this is what I'm going to believe, and this is what I'm going to just position myself to receive. So with that, is there anything else you ladies would like to add about prophetic words or encouragement?
I think even sometimes, there's this story that I read in, I think it was 1st or 2nd Kings. Basically, Elisha was a prophet in the Bible. He prophesied to this woman, and I'm cutting out so many things just to make it short, but he prophesied to this woman that she was going to bear a son. And she eventually did, and she was like, Elisha, basically, don't play with me. Like, if you're like, that's a very sensitive topic. Like, just don't mess with my heart. And he's like, no, like, God, like, you're gonna have a kid. So she does. A few years later, the son dies. And it's like, okay, God, I stopped and I was like, God prophesied, like, God made that happen for her. But yet the son died. So sometimes, like, those counteracts and those attacks can really get ugly. And but it's the enemy who comes to kill.
It happens all the time.
So
I kill you. Like comedian.
to kill. Matar.
Wow. That sounds so much harsher.
But it's the same word.
Oh, yeah, it's
to
true.
kill, steal, and destroy. So she ends up finding Elisha and was like, I told you not to mess with me. Like, he died. Like, why would basically, why would God put me through all this? And long story short, Elisha, eventually, he goes, the son is dead, and he goes and basically raises him up from the dead. And it's like, sometimes those battles and those wars for those prophetic words, they can get pretty intense, but it does not take away the fact that God said it. So really, if that can happen from death to life, then don't give up on your prophetic dreams. Because again, if God can bring a son from back to life, like, he can definitely bring your dreams back, whether it's finances, people, circumstances. If God can do that, he can definitely keep our dreams alive.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. Mickey?
Basically the same thing, just never lose sight, never forget what was prophesied over you, constantly be praying, constantly be listening to them. And it's just like, you have to obviously put actions behind, like, what was given to you. So it's just like, no matter how hard the battle is, no matter how ugly it can get, it's like, the reward, the victory that God has behind it, it's always going to be greater than that. So it's just like constantly building your faith, constantly, just pressing into him and believing, it can be a 360 1 month to a whole nother new life another month. So it's just like having that open mind and be willing to, like, go on this whole new journey and obviously see your life transformed right before your eyes. So it's just like constantly just, pressing into him and obviously give him all the thanks for everything.
Yes, I love it. And I think surround yourself with people that you can trust with those prophetic words and that will speak it to you and remind you of them when you yourself are hitting a very low point, right? Because that is what's gonna help you. You can't do it by yourself. And if you try it, it is very lonely, and you're gonna experience a lot of heartache. As the girls and I spoke in our last episode in the joy of friendships, like, you gotta have those people that can remind you God's purpose for your life when you are hitting low points. And so that is so crucial. So with that, thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you, ladies, for coming through.
Thank you.
What an honor. We will hopefully hear from you guys. Make sure you subscribe. Okay, here, let's do this again. Let me try it again. Okay. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Okay. And if you're on YouTube, click the little bell so that you can get notified every time we have a new video. And as always, our handle is inthevine.connects. Make sure you connect with us, because we love to hear testimonies. We love to hear input. And that's it. I hope your summer is wrapping up great. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. If you liked this episode or we answered any of your questions, or you have a question that you would like to be discussed in future episodes, let us know in the comments or share on social media. And don't forget to visit our website for more information about our upcoming events, and be sure to hit subscribe so you won't miss out on the amazing content and guests we have lined up for you. Shalom and God bless.